Okay, first of all, Governor, thank you for your leadership during these tough times. I often say it's easy to be a leader when things are going well. You find out who your real leaders are during tough times, and I want to thank Governor Ricketts for his leadership and for standing up for our state and for the citizens. It's a simple fact that public health measures are making day-to-day operations difficult right now for all sorts of businesses. Restaurants, bars, lounges, theaters, hotels, gyms, salons, and Main Street. We recognize the greater good. First and foremost, we have to protect the lives of our Nebraskans, and then we'll work together to ensure their livelihoods. On behalf of the businesses here in Nebraska, I want to express my heartfelt thanks and appreciation to Dr. Antone, the public health team here in the state of Nebraska, and the medical community in our state. They're doing an heroic job right now to keep Nebraskans healthy and safe. As Cornhuskers, we're all in this together. And you've heard me say it before. We all wear the same jersey. And we're going to win this war as long as we continue to do what's necessary through the CDC guidelines and the guidelines that the governor set forth in the state. We're going to win this war on this virus. So let me talk about some relief and assistance for businesses. At the state and federal level, leaders are working hard to provide relief to businesses, whether big, small, or self-employed. In this season, as Nebraskans, you've heard me say it before, we need to communicate and we need to work together as much as possible to accommodate each other. So here are some practical steps that I've talked about before. First, if you're a small business, you contact your vendors that are associated with your business. Every business owner should print a list of their bills, including vendor invoices, and make payment arrangements. This does not negate your responsibility to make payments, but everybody understands as your revenue drops, some level of accommodations are necessary. Second, bank loan deferments. The Nebraska Department of Banking and Finance has been encouraging bankers to be supportive in accommodating their customers during this crisis. So you have the opportunity to have your loans deferred and to do so in a manner that says that it gives you some level of reprieve as you're going through this challenge. Next, rent deferment. It is obvious that if revenue drops, then it's going to be very difficult for you to make your rent payment. So in the spirit of ensuring that the business survives long-term, commercial property owners are strongly encouraged to consider some form of rent repayment reduction and some form of deferment for 90 to 120 days. And if a commercial property owner has a loan with the bank, you have the opportunity to talk with the bank to get a deferment, and then you pass that along to your tenant. My partner and peer Commissioner John Albin has talked about the Department of Labor, the short-term comp program, and that is put in place in order to keep hours on the books while giving your employees the opportunity to have some level of unemployment. On March 27th, President Trump signed the CARES Act into law. And this was a $2.2 trillion stimulus that is designed to sustain us through this pandemic and rev up the economy once the coronavirus outbreaks ends. So here are a few features. I'll talk first about what is available to all employers. First is the payroll tax deferment. Delays of payment of employer payroll tax between now and January 2021. And this is a 50% of those taxes that are due on December 31st, 2021, and the other 50% will be due December 31st of 2022. So you can defer those taxes and you don't have to pay them back. First payment, December 31st, 2021. Second payment, 50% December 31st, 2022. Next is the employee retention credit. And this is a credit available to employers fully or partially shut down by the government order due to this pandemic. It's also available to businesses that have seen a 50% drop in gross receipts. It's a refundable tax credit of 50% of the qualifying wages, including health plan expenses paid by the employer up to $10,000 per teammate. Wages paid after March 12, 2020 and before January 1st, 2021 are eligible for this credit. Next, I'll give a brief overview of this is available to small businesses, self-employed, independent contractors, and nonprofit agencies. So, the first, you've heard a lot about the Payment Protection Plan. It can be taken out for 8 weeks of a business's average payroll or $10 million, whichever is the lesser amount. The loan may be fully forgiven. It is actually converted to a grant. And if it's used to pay for payroll, and that's salary and wages and tips, benefits, sick leave, medical and or retirement, state taxes assessed on compensation, rent or mortgage interest, and utilities. Note that at least 75% of this forgiven amount must go towards your payroll. Loan payments will be deferred for 6 months. The interest rate now is 1%. Yesterday it was a half a point. They improved that for our community banks, or for all banks, up to 1%. And this program is open through June 30th of 2020. There's no requirement to look for credit elsewhere before applying for this loan. There's no need to put up any collateral or make any personal guarantees for the loans. Businesses are encouraged to contact your current bank, and Leon is going to talk about the activities that are happening with current banks right now, and that's the first step to apply. Small businesses and sole proprietors can begin applying today, and independent contractors and self-employed individuals can start to apply on April 10th. And lastly, I'll talk about the economic injury disaster loan. I've talked about that before, and that's available to small businesses and nonprofits with fewer than 500 employees. This includes sole proprietors and independent contractors. This provides up to $2 million of working capital, long-term repayment up to 30 years. The interest rate is 3.75%, 2.75% for nonprofits. Payments are deferred to up to 1 year. As a part of this, you can apply for an emergency grant of $10,000 when applying for the loan. This grant may be available even if your loan is declined. The SBA has stated that they can fund this loan in 3 days, and the grant can be used for payroll, sick leave, rent, and whatever else you need to make that for. And this is an emergency grant, and it does not have to be repaid, is what the bill states. So listen, in closing, if you have questions about these programs, feel free to visit the COVID-19 resource page at opportunity.nebraska.gov. You can also call our business support line at 1-800-426-6505. The state of Nebraska will continue to keep you informed on relief for businesses and additional information as it becomes available. The rest of this month is going to be pretty tough for the U.S. and for our state as this virus spreads. In hard times, remember that we often have to find power in solutions, and as long as we continue to communicate and cooperate, we can win. In times like this, we have the opportunity to display our leadership, our flexibility, and our willingness to temporarily sacrifice for the greater good of the state and for our citizens. We are Nebraskans, and throughout our history, we have shown resiliency that has allowed this state to not only survive, but thrive during tough times. We saw it last year during the floods, and I'm fully confident that we'll see it again as the months move ahead. Thank you, and I'll turn the platform over to Leon Malabor to give additional information about the SBA.